Welcome to the Whole Career Podcast with Advent Health. I'm Brandon Strawn, and I'm joined by my co-host, Sky Kellogg.
Each episode features conversations with various healthcare professionals who will share their personal career journeys, insights, and perspectives on various healthcare careers. From nursing to technology to leadership, we'll cover a wide range of topics to help you stay informed and inspired.
Whether you're just starting out in your healthcare career, looking to pivot, or a seasoned professional looking to take the next step, this podcast is for you. We hope to empower you with the knowledge and the tools needed to make a positive impact in your field. At Advent Health, we believe that we are greater as a whole, and we invite you to join us on this journey as we explore the world of healthcare careers together. Welcome back to the Whole Career Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Brandon Strawn. Today, we are missing our wonderful host, Sky Kellogg, but we have an amazing guest with us here today, LaDonna Sampson. She is a corporate nurse manager with Advent Health. And LaDonna, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Scared to death, but great.
I love it. I love it. Awesome. So I want to just make sure that our audience, right, has a great picture of who you are and what you do. So would you mind just formally introducing yourself and giving us a brief overview of your current position with Advent Health?
So my name is LaDonna Sampson. I've actually been with Advent Health just a little over 10 years. I currently work, like you said, as the corporate nurse manager in the corporate offices here in Altamont Springs in the clinical effectiveness division for the most part. So I work with our senior nurse leaders, doing a lot of things to help all of our facilities across all of our campuses.
Awesome. And so just to make sure, you mentioned specifically the clinical effectiveness department. Is that like a niche? I guess what I'm trying to say is you have the corporate nursing manager. I'm assuming you have other corporate nursing managers. Do they support different areas? And so you're just specific to the clinical effectiveness?
No, I am the only corporate nurse manager. I support all campuses across all divisions.
Okay. So basically, you guys, she's letting you know that she's got a lot on her plate. All right. She's got a ton on your plate. So when you email her, right, if you're listening and you're internal, get straight to the point. All right. She doesn't want any fluff. She has a ton on her plate. Okay. So be direct and let's keep this thing moving. But that's crazy. So how do you think, as far as the amount of work and of course, knowing the amount of facilities that you have to support, what is it like collaborating with those different facilities? Do you think that it's a task that you have kind of settled into now, or a challenge that you've settled into now, or is it something that you're still learning?
So a little bit of both. So a lot of when I first got chosen for this position, it was mainly because of my background. I have a military background, so that kind of helps. And getting things ready, completed, done, deadlines. I mean, that's something that we do all the time. But as far as who I work with, like I said, the executive nursing team here, and there's a lot of things that we oversee, like I said, for all the campuses. 3 things that we kind of do here: improve nursing quality, empower the workforce, and then we kind of turn gaps into opportunities. So across all campuses, that's what we're kind of looking at to help our nursing teams for all of our divisions.
Okay, awesome. And so what are some of the general duties, and even if you want to give us like the day-to-day of your role?
So one of my largest projects that I am over is the NDNQI, which is our nursing sensitive indicators. And a lot of that is over quality. So of course, we're talking about infections, we're talking about improvements, we're talking about making sure that our patients are getting the best care. And that's kind of what nursing is taking care of our patients. But that's a huge project that we do. And I am in constant contact with all of our site coordinators at every campus. And that's most likely on a weekly basis. Things are going back and forth. I try to make things easy for them on my side because I know how it was being a nurse manager on the front line before. So a lot of things I try to think forward. Hey, they might want to know this, or hey, they might need to know this, or hey, this would help them do this. So that's a lot of forward thinking that I also have to do as well.
And so I know that as far as if you're looking at kind of like the hierarchy, and hopefully that's the correct word, but let's say if we're looking like the organizational chart, right, that most companies have, you have on a clinical side, you have, right, a staff nurse, maybe a unit manager, then you have your assistant nurse manager, and then nurse manager, right? So a clinical nurse manager, is that as far as where that person lies in the organizational chart, right, of things, is that just the same in the corporate setting? Like when you think of nurse manager, and I only bring that up because a lot of times in the clinical space, sometimes the titles can kind of get, you know,
Blur.
yes, yeah. I'm like, oh, okay, man. When I hear manager, I'm just like, okay, well, you lead people, but sometimes that isn't exactly the case. So I guess I just wanted to ask, so when you think of a clinical nurse manager, is it the same as just saying, okay, now you're in a corporate setting, but you're still considered a nurse manager?
For the corporate leadership here, I will say that there's a team of 3 that I roll up to, but there's not necessarily anyone that I lead here. I gather information, I collect data. I make sure that our leaders, our executive leaders here, have the information that they need to put out the information to all the senior nurse executives, as well as the senior nurse officers, to get down to the nurse managers on the floor, as well as the information to get down to the A&Ms and to the bedside nurse themselves.
Awesome. I love the way you answer. Yes, absolutely. And I just like to ask that question because I know that our audience, a lot of our audience are people who are looking to pivot into a different career, or people who are looking to go upward, right, get that upward mobility. And so sometimes just hearing certain things allows them to not assume and know for sure, like, okay, that's who I'll be collaborating with, this is how this will be different when I step into this role. So that was a great way to answer that question. And so we'll get back to your time as a corporate nurse manager, but I want to kind of delve into your time with the military, and thank you for your service. To start, thank you for your service. But I wanted to ask, what branch of the military did you serve in?
United States Navy.
Okay, awesome. And what was the transition like? Well, actually, before we go into the transition from military to civilian, what was your decision like to join the military? If you can speak on that.
Well, as a young adult, we all think we know everything, and we don't. But I also wanted to make sure that I wasn't leaning on my parents' coattails. I wanted to set a stride for myself. Before I joined, I was working 2 jobs and trying to go to school all at the same time. And like I said, for a young adult, that could be a lot. So it was an avenue for me to set myself up for success. And that's what I kind of did. Actually,
Awesome.
that's what I did.
Right. I was gonna say that's not kind of what you did, because you don't become a right. You don't become a corporate nurse manager and not call that success. So you definitely did it. And so what job were you working in the Navy?
Lo and behold, so when I initially first went in, don't laugh.
Okay,
I
I
was
won't
an
laugh.
aircraft mechanic.
Okay.
Okay, so yeah, I did air conditioning, ejection seats, heating and cooling systems, and that's what I kind of gathered. So got my foot in the ground doing all that kind of stuff, and then I actually ventured off into some other areas after that. Eventually, I applied for one of the school programs that they have, and it's called MECP, Medical Enlisted Commissioning Program, where they send you back to school to get a nursing degree, because that's a nursing program. And then went from there. I always wanted to be a nurse. It's just that, like I said, as a young adult, I didn't think I was mentally and physically ready to do that. So I had to learn and grow a little bit within myself before I could step back and go, okay, now this is ready. I'm ready.
Okay. So let's unpack that. You mentioned that you were an aircraft mechanic. Did I get that correct? Okay.
Yeah.
So a little bit of HVAC experience. I might have to contact you about this after, because no, the air conditioning in here is in my house is a little bit, and we're gonna go into summer, and we're in Florida, guys. So but we'll talk about that. But I didn't laugh. I didn't laugh. You said not to laugh, so I didn't. Because it's a very essential skill to have. But now I kind of want to unpack the part where you said you always knew that you wanted to be a nurse, but you felt as if you weren't quite prepared. And so that takes a lot of self-awareness and being able to step outside of yourself and say, okay, like I know I want this, but I don't know if where I'm at right now aligns with the work that needs to be done to get there. So I know this wasn't one of the questions that we posed to you, but I just want to ask, what was that like figuring out, okay, I could try this right now, but I don't feel like I'm prepared. And I guess a two-part question: what was it like coming to that self-realization? But then also, what was it like when you did feel prepared? And what was that moment that you were like, okay, I'm ready now, and you decided to join that commission program?
So I did a devotional last week, and I talked about momisms. Do you know what a momism is?
You know what? I don't.
Okay. So momisms is, growing up as a kid, those little sayings that your mom used to say in your ear all the time.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Momisms. And,
yes.
As a kid, you're not paying attention. You're like, whatever, But as we get older, we kind of remember those. My son now says that he remembers some of the things that I say, and he's like, oh my God, I'm turning into my mother.
Yeah.
Those are kind of like momisms. So, one of the things is, what are your moments that matter? And how can you transpire that? Is it now or do you wait? That was one of the things that she used to say. And Lord knows there's many that she used to say. But like I said, I knew at that point that I wasn't ready to do that. I wasn't ready mentally, like I said, mentally or physically to do that, because it takes a lot to be a nurse. The study, the for anything that has a passion, you have to be willing to suffer for it. That's it right there. And by suffer, I mean you have to put in the time. You have to be ready.
No, I agree. And I think, when I say I agree, of course, you all know I'm not a nurse. However, I have a lot of nurses in my family, right? My sister is a nurse. My younger sister is a nurse. And just watching her go through that, it is an experience for everyone, I will say. Of course, toughest and hardest on the nurse or the aspiring nurse. But just watching it, the time spent just praying for her, praying with her, trying to make life as easy as possible as I can, for her, whether that's my mom or, my dad or myself, because it's it can get brutal, and so.
And it really can.
Yeah. You got to tell it like it is, right? It's an awesome field to be in, but yeah, you have to go through
you have
some
to
things.
be ready.
Absolutely. Okay, cool. So let's keep going with you entered that commission program to begin nursing. And so at this point, you're still in the Navy, and they are covering the cost of your nursing degree. Is it ASN or BSN at this time? BSN. Okay, awesome. And so they're covering the cost. And are you now close to exiting the Navy, or did you finish the program and then work as a nurse in the Navy?
That is correct. So, of course, there's always a payback. They're going to give you something.
Right.
You got to give them back something. So there is a payback. And I think you have to complete the program within 3 years. So, of course, you have to have some college credits before you enter the program to get completed. Now, I will say the first year that I applied for the program, I didn't get it. I spent the next week, I'm not ever going to do this again. I'm done. I'm not going to do it again. And then 2 weeks later, I was like, okay, get off your little pity horse. Let's go. We're going to do this again. So what did I not do this time that I need to improve to make sure that I get it the next time, which I did get it the next time. So there we go for that. But I think you owe them back 3, or was it 4? 3 or 4 for the 3 years that you're going to school.
Okay. So you did. So in total, how many years spent in the Navy?
28 years.
28 years. So you were a lifetime. That's kind of what they call them, right? You did a lifer. Okay. Yeah. Sorry. Yes. So you're now exiting the Navy, and are you looking specifically for a nursing job? And the reason why I'm going into this, audience, is because when you do 28 years, that's like, okay, I'm done. I'm thinking about retire. Well, you are retiring specifically from the Navy, right?
Mhm.
But mindset wise, you're like, am I gonna jump back into the same field and continue to work? You have that option now. So I guess take me through your mindset, exiting the Navy and saying, okay, what's next for LaDonna? What am I going to do next?
So, there are a lot of sacrifices that people in the military do. I mean, they're away from their family a lot, quite a bit. Sometimes you're away from your husband, your wife, your children for some time, away from your extended family. So that kind of takes its toll. I will say that I spent my last 3 years in Japan unaccompanied. So my husband actually stayed in the States while I went to Japan for my last 3 year tour. And so my initial goal was I was going to, when I got out, was I was going to take 6 months off. I wasn't going to do anything. I was 6 months. I'm good. I'm not going to do nothing.
Well deserved. Yep.
Yeah, that lasted about 3 months, if that. So, when he was coming home from work, I would be the clingy one. I was like, "Hey, how was your day? What's going on? What are you doing?" And he's like, "You need to find something to do."
He's like, this was cool the first 2 weeks.
Yes, you need
But
to
it
find
ain't cool
something
no
to
more.
do.
Right. Right.
So, I was like, "Yeah, I am bored. I am bored." You know,
Yeah.
I was like, my son's grown, gone. There's no one in the house but me and my husband. So yeah,
Okay.
it was time. So there was actually a nursing conference here in Orlando because I was still living in Jacksonville, and I was coming down here to see where I wanted to go, and talk to a lot of the nurses that were here asking about jobs here in the area. So that was my out, to find where I wanted to go. But I will say, that initial transition from military to the civilian sector, the Navy has a program. It's called Transition Assistance Program, and it gives you a lot of the tools that you need to make that transition. So it was how to interview, how to do your resume, what to look for, how to negotiate things that you want to do for the aftermath, how to make sure that your money's going to last, how to not spend it. So I mean, it's a week-long class about a lot of things that you would need in the transition, from military to civilian.
Okay, great. And so I want to stay right there on the resources that were provided right before you left and even the resources that were provided after leaving. So what you just mentioned is that resource was provided to you, or that program, while you were still in the Navy.
Correct.
Correct. Okay, so you do that, and of course that gives you some skills, and provides that for you. But what about after you finish? Right, that transition of like, I'm now a civilian. Were there any resources that you tapped into based on kind of what your needs were, as you were now outside, of the Navy?
The VA always has benefits on the outside. So even at this point now, in currently, and I've been out since 2009, I could still go back and say if I want to go back to school or if I wanted some educational training, I could always reach back and go, "This is what I need."
Okay. Okay. So the VA, and any additional resources maybe outside of the VA. I know we talked to Scott Evans. He mentioned a program called 4 Block. So we talked to him about that. And that, I know that's not in association with the VA, but and if not, that's fine. But I just wanted to see, are there any other resources that maybe you know about, that maybe may not be directly connected to the VA, that people use when transitioning?
Not that I've researched, but yes, I've actually worked with them on the 4 block, interviewing and helping people. The very first one that I did when I'm here with 4 block with the team that's here, we were talking with people about finding jobs and not necessarily looking for the job that they were doing in the military. So say if I was doing supply sources out in the military, they don't necessarily think about supply core in, in a hospital. I mean, that's not something that you would just normally think about. It was like, no, we have that capability here. We still need supplies. We're a hospital.
Right.
Because from that perspective, people are like, they only think hospitals are the nurses and the physicians. They don't
Right.
really thinking about the food service, the other labor force that works in a hospital. It's like, oh, I didn't really think about that. Let me look into that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely. And I think I'm glad you mentioned that, because that is what I spend a lot of my time doing as a recruiter, right? I recruit on the non-clinical side. And so I recruit from our universities that we're partnered with. And so I spend a lot of time going to these universities and going into the School of Business, School of Psychology, School of Communication, and letting these students know, hey, I know that Advent Health is constantly here to recruit the nurses, right? I get that, or the clinical, the PTs, right? But we also need people in supply chain. We need people in operations. We need people in marketing. We need so many things. And I think people forget. And of course, Advent Health does a great job as not making the hospital feel like a business, right? Because we have our service standards and we have all of these things that make it a really enjoyable experience for the employees. But in the grand scheme of things, yes, we are a business. And so we can't just have physicians and nurses, which they're awesome, but we need additional things to make everything run smoothly to support the people that are providing the care, right? And so I wanted to, I guess, ask you, as far as understanding finances, right? And not to talk about your personal finances, but I know that finances can be different from when you're in the military and then you get out. And so the same situation where you're talking about, hey, the job that you do in the military, that title may not be on the outside, right? So you have to figure out and understand, okay, how do I connect with and make those transferable skills? But now talking about finances, right? You have a couple things or several things that they assist you with in the Navy, right? So building your, like, if you're financial planning, right, and building your financial foundation, it may look different when you become a civilian, especially if you spent a good amount of time, in the military and serving, right? So were there any classes or courses that they were able to assist you with as you were exiting to help you understand, okay, you may be losing these benefits, and here's what civilian benefits, the market for this type of job, what it's paying, and kind of how those contrast?
Yeah, that was actually part of that TAP class that I was telling you about. So one of the
Awesome.
days was financial planning and what to look for, and like I said, you don't get all the necessarily benefits that you had there, but how can you equate that to the benefits that you're going to get on the civilian sector side? Um, my medical, like, I don't need any medical from Advent Health because all my medical is at VA. I mean, for now it's all free. I was like, I can't turn that down. You know what I mean?
Right. Right. Yeah, no, that makes sense. So in your entire career, right? So Navy plus what you're doing now, is there a mentor that you'd like to shout out? Is there someone that really was able to make an impact on you and help, whether it was at any point in your career or maybe someone that was there the entire way?
For me, I will say there has not been just one.
Okay.
Everybody brings something to the table. Everybody brings something to the table differently. It's kind of like, Thanksgiving. She makes the best macaroni. She makes the best potato salad. Everybody brings something. So I have always tried to surround myself with positive people. Um, Negativity, I can't deal with. I mean, it's a heavy burden to let some people go sometimes. But I always try to stay positive in everything that I do. So I cannot honestly say there was one mentor. There have been many.
I love it. I love it. And I love the analogy that you gave about, Thanksgiving, and everyone brings something different to the table. So I want to give a shout out to the mentors out there, right? Understand this. you can't mentor everyone, right? Not every mentee is for you. And I'm just going along with the analogy you gave. Like,
Mhm.
you got to know, if you make the best potato salad, stick with the potato salad. That's what we know you for. All right. Don't try and bring the mac and cheese when you're a potato salad, right? That's what you give. And so, but I know it's funny, but in a way it's true, right? We want to make sure, of course, that you're able to really help that mentee to the best of your capabilities. So shout out all the mentors out there making it happen for us. So I want to switch gears a little bit and go back into your time as a corporate nurse manager. But before we do that, was this prior to becoming a corporate nurse manager? What was your role? And if you could give us a little detail about how you were able to actually land this position as a corporate nurse manager.
So when I first came to Advent Health, I was actually a nurse manager in one of the units at the Orlando campus. And I
Clinical nurse manager.
clinical,
All right,
yeah,
everyone.
clinical nurse manager. So I had my team, I had my patients, all the whole nine. And I did that for roughly 8 years. And then I moved over to a position in the behavioral health, became the operations manager for behavioral health for a little while. And then this position came open. And, sometimes God just drops something right in your lap and you're like, that's what I want.
And so at this time, so 8 years spent as a nurse manager.
Here.
You said that here, right, at Advent Health, right,
And
at
Advent
Advent Health,
Health, yeah.
right. And you said that it kind of dropped in your lap, but I want to know, were you looking to make, like, were your eyes set on a corporate nurse manager? So maybe the opportunity dropped in your lap, but I know you to be a very strategic person. That's why I'm saying this, right? I'm looking at your trajectory, right? I'm like, okay, well, she strategically went into the Navy, right? That was something that she saw as a way to help bolster your situation. And then you strategically went into nursing, right? And so that's why I asked that question. Like, was there a bit of strategy, or were you looking out for that type of position, one day aspiring to get to a corporate nursing position?
Well, kind of yes and kind of no. So this position actually did not exist.
Let's talk about it. So, okay, so how did this position even come about?
So that was, I guess, the executive team here was in the direction that they were trying to go, and they were like, "No, we need something specific to help drive this." And so that would be another position. So you know how they create positions. So that position was created, and then the executive team is like, just off the top of their head, who are we looking at? Who could possibly fill this position? Who do we know that could manage this without without necessarily having too much hands on? I don't have to look over their shoulders all the time. I can go, hey, I need this done, and it gets done. You know what I mean?
Right.
So there was a select few of us that were looked at for the position, got the call and said, hey, this is what we're looking for. Is this something that you would be interested in? Now, I will say, one of those momisms that she used to say is always be ready.
Always be ready.
Always be ready. So you don't know what's coming, but always be ready. So, when I got my master's, it was always be ready. And one of my mentors actually said to me, she was like, we don't have HR in the Navy. Why are you doing HR? And I was like, I'm not doing HR for you. I'm doing it for me. Again, always be ready. Know the rules. Know the rules at all the time. Play the game, play it correctly, know all the rules, and always be ready.
I love it. Always stay ready so you don't got to get ready. All right. That was my momism. She's from New York, so she tells it like it is, like that. But I love that you said, and so that's why I didn't want you to downplay the strategy and that you take towards things, because you just said that you told this person in the middle, you said, I'm not getting this HR degree for you, right? So you were already looking ahead. And I always like to highlight that, because I think that we have enough people in this world who want to go with the flow. And it's not a negative thing, but we need those people who are thinking ahead, who can think broadly, right? Those are our leaders of tomorrow. Those are the people who truly have the ability to take things to the next level. And that's kind of what I feel as if happened in this case, right? So we'll touch on the masters in HR in just a second, but I want to ask, going into a new position that wasn't present before, right?
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the challenges? Because I myself have done that in the past, where I've been in a position where it's like, hey, this position does not exist before you. So you're going to have to make sure that you can stay flexible, that you can help us build out the workflow for this position, maybe even the job description changes. So I say that to say, what were some of the challenges that you had to go through, being that you didn't have anyone to model this position for you?
So one of the things that you need to do in a new position, it was like you have to get from your leaders, what is the purpose of this role? What direction are we going? How do you want this to go? What flexibility do I have to get from point A to point B? You need to know those things. And then, be very open-minded, because things change. Today it might be this, and tomorrow it might be something different, but you have to go with the flow as well. So open-minded, ask those questions, and continue to ask those questions, because a lot of time you're like, well, what about this? Yeah, we're not going that direction yet. Okay, well, if we're not going there yet, what is my timeline? So, I mean, you have to think forward, always think forward.
I love it. I love it. Gems. She's just dropping gems right now. And one day,
Momisms.
Momisms, right. And one day we can get. I got to talk to Sky about this, right? We can get like a applaud a button that we can press, right? As if we have a live audience. That would be so cool. But no. To get back to what you were saying, I totally agree. As I said, as someone who has been in that position before, being curious, asking questions, right? So I love that answer that you gave. Okay, so now we can move forward a little bit. And I know, audience, we've been jumping back and forth. You guys bear with us, all right? This is a real life dialogue, okay? We want to make this enjoyable as well. But I wanted to say, your time or the decision to get your master's in HR. I will say, I know a lot of nurses. I haven't met a lot of nurses that elect to get their master's in HR. It's either a master's in nursing or even maybe like an MBA, I would say. But specifically in HR, talk us through that. What was your decision making process like, and how do you feel like it has benefited you, throughout your time in corporate?
So, I will say HR, human resources, and I always say, again, know your rules. If you're going to lead people, you have to know the rules. What can you legally do and what can you not legally do? And that was kind of my drive. So I knew I was going to be a nurse leader somewhere once I got out of the military. But I knew I didn't want to do business. And if I wanted to do my master's in nursing, I was going to do that second. That was my plan.
Okay.
But for leading people, you have a lot of personalities when you're leading people, and you have to know when to pull back, but you also have to know when to push a little further. So when you have a team of 80 people that you're leading and everyone has a different personality, some go from 0 to 10, some go from 0 to 60 in a matter of seconds. You have to know how to temperament all of that. So that's what I mean by, knowing the rules. You can't do that because of this. There's a rule for that. You can't do this because of that. There's a rule for that. However, you can meet that if you do this over here. You are leading people to hopefully make the best person that they are, get them along the way. So you're mentoring them as well along the way to be better people. One of my things I used to always say is I want to be better tomorrow than I was today. Right. But how to do that?
Yeah. LaDonna, I know that when you filled out our, form, for being a guest on the show, you mentioned something about a time where someone told you that you could not do something. So I want to know about what that thing was and what are the steps that you took to accomplish that goal.
Well, in a lifetime, you have lots of people that's going to tell you you can't do that or no, or it's not possible or anything. But I will say there was one time that really kind of made me who I am today. Um, Most people don't know that, but growing up, I was rather shy and didn't speak a lot around people. I mean, I kept my circle very close, but I was still in the military and I was up for orders, and I was trying to do something out of the box. And this is when I think I kind of shifted from who I used to be to who I am now. So I'm, talking to the detailer on the phone, and I said, what about specialty orders? And he was like, "Yeah, you don't want to do that." And I'm like, "Why not?" And he was like, "Nah, I don't see you doing that." And I went, "Okay, well, let's talk about this." I actually wanted to go recruiting duty. Ha! Recruiting duty. There we go. So
And when you say orders, your orders means like where they're going to send you to do work. When you say specialty
yes,
orders, okay,
yes.
okay, got it.
So every 3 years you would move and go to another duty station and do something else. Well, this
Okay,
particular time I wanted to move away from aircraft mechanics because it's a little bit, and I wanted to do something a little different. So yeah, I was like, I want to do specialty duty. And he was like, "No, no, I don't see you doing that. I really don't." And I was like, "Okay, that's what I want to do." And he was like, "Okay, we can do that, but okay, I really don't see it for you." Okay, I took those orders. I went to recruiting school, and recruiting school for the Navy at that time was actually here in Orlando.
oh wow.
And then it's a 8 week course, that you kind of go through for all the training before you go to the official duty station. So I get to the duty station, and you're doing all the new stuff, meeting all your new people, finding your new routes and everything. However, there is this program, another program within that says if you are the distinguished graduate from your class, you get to come back and speak to the new people that are going through the course. So, of course, I'm like, I'm going to do that.
Right.
He told me, "No, you can't do that. I'm going to be the distinguished grad of this class." Lo and behold, I was the distinguished class of that class. And I came
Come on
back.
now, somebody.
Hey, don't tell me no.
What?
So at that
Oh,
point, and I had to step out of my comfort zone and talk and talk and talk. And sometimes, even when I went home, my mother would say, so I was like, "I'm tired of talking today. I don't want to talk anymore." But that made me push myself further than I had ever been before. And that was, I think, the beginning of my career path. Let me put it that way.
of where you're at now, like that, you
Yes,
felt like that was that's okay, okay,
that was a
and then
determining moment.
yeah, yeah, wow. I think, well, one, you said you were shy, and now look, you're on a podcast, right? You're on the big screen, okay? This is going to YouTube. YouTube is big, but that's amazing, and I think it's it's interesting that people, and sometimes I find it could be them projecting, but people telling you what's not best for you is always very, of course we have our mothers and those figures that we really look up to that may know us really well, right? But
Mhm.
in this case, someone who doesn't really know you, they may know some things that you have accomplished in the past, and they're using that to shape who they would like you to be. But I really like that you said that he said he doesn't think you could do that, but what does that matter? So I appreciate you sharing that, and letting us know that that was really a moment for you. What are some of the things, if I can ask, what are some of the things that you felt you did to help you stand out, to get that distinguished? Like, what were some of the maybe one or two steps where you were like, if I do this, I think it'll give me an edge, if you can remember?
And I don't even think it was a thought at that point. It was just the thing that he told me no.
Right.
So I'm like, what do I have to do? And but what I will say is, there were two other guys in my class that said we were all in competition with each other. So even though we were in different locations, we would call each other and go, "Okay, where are you at? Where are you at? Where are you at?"
Right.
So it was a challenge even between us.
Yeah. Yeah.
And in the very end, yeah, I pulled it out.
Here you go. There you go. Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. Okay. So I want to end this off by asking about what is your proudest moment, that you've experienced. It could be in the workplace or just in your personal life.
I think my ability to connect with people has been a great accomplishment for me. I currently have a group of friends and tight group of friends, and there's 8 couples that we all met during our military time frame. And even though we've spread out now that we've all got out and went our own separate ways, we still stay connected and we travel together, whether it's overseas or birthday parties. We just had a 50th birthday party in San Diego just here recently, but we stay connected. And when we want to vent or celebrate or just talk, that is my group that I reach out to for anything and everything. And again, like I said, everybody brings something to the table. So when I need the strength of one, I know who to go to, or the strength of the other, I know who to go to. And the collaboration between the 16 of us, and believe it or not, it's 16 of us, and we still hang like we're 20 years old. You know what I mean?
Right, right.
But it's that group of people that keeps me grounded and I'm most proud of. Um, my family, my own personal family, my son, my daughter in law, my grandbaby, that is my next accomplishment that I'm over thrilled with. My husband, again, that center, they keep me grounded.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I appreciate you sharing that, and that is rare. And I know you already know this, but to have 8 couples
Hmm.
that all they get along and they all encourage, and there's no like that is rare. So I want to kudos to you on that, because I know that it takes the effort of each person to continue that friendship and continue that energy that you all experience. So yeah, that's awesome. That's great. That's great. Okay. Well, cool. I wanted to let you know and just thank you for being on the podcast today. I'll go ahead and close us out here. Thank you for listening to the Whole Career Podcast. Be sure to subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast platform to stay up to date with the latest episodes. And if you have any questions or topics that you'd like us to cover, feel free to reach out to us on Instagram at Life at Advent Health. Once again, that's at Life at Advent Health. But until next time, take care.